The most honored soldier in US history died in a plane crash in 1971. But that's not the big secret. Everyone knew something that Audie Murphy kept from them. For 26 years, his family slept in the house, but he lived in his own basement. Every night he slept with a gun under his pillow. It was a secret that he lost $3 million, 0 cents, at odds. The government looked into him. He asked for $10 million, 0 cents from his wife. It's not important to know how he died. This is the reason the man who killed 241 enemy soldiers was afraid to sleep in his own bed. It was June 20, 1925 in Kingston, Texas, and his family was barely getting by. Murphy was the 7th of 12 children. His father was no more for going missing than for giving him food. He was there one day and not there the next. Audie, who was only 12, had to take over as man of the house because of this. He stopped going to school when he was in the 5th grade and got a job picking cotton for $1 a day. Today, that's equal to about $23, 0 cents. That little money had to feed a family with lots of kids. For a kid, it was the worst thing that could happen, but no one else could do it. Then he got hit so hard that it would change him for good. After a short illness, Audie's mother, Josie, passed away in 1941. When he was only 16 years old, she was only 50 years old. After that, his 3 younger brothers were taken away and put in an orphanage. Audie was not left with anyone else. He was never the same after that loss. He told me once that she took something from me. After that, I looked for it everywhere. He felt that emptiness for a long time. He started to fill it by taking risks, which was the only way he knew how. The army never gave him a gun because he already knew how to stay alive. He learned how to shoot from hunger. All of the shots had to be important since there were only a few. The kids didn't eat if he missed. He used a catapult and a borrowed gun to kill rabbits and squirrels. He never missed, a neighbor once said. He was so good at shooting that it was the only thing he felt like he had control over in his life. He would go on to be one of the deadliest soldiers in World War II because of that skill. He had killed at least 240 enemy men by the end of the war, but no one wanted him. When he first tried to join, he was too thin and small. He was only 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed only 112 pounds. No, the Marines, the Navy, and even the Army didn't want him in battle. They tried to get him to go to cooking school. Audie wasn't going to fry eggs while other people fought, though. He lied about his age by making a fake birth certificate with the help of his sister. In the end, the Army gave up. He started on June 30, 1942. He was only 17 years old. He had something to aim for and a way to let out the pain he had been holding in for years. In July 1943, he killed his first people in Sicily. 2 officers from Italy on horses tried to get away. He hit both of them twice and knocked them out. He was 18 years old. He got malaria that same week. But he kept fighting. As the war went on, the sickness kept coming back. He always said he didn't want to stay in the hospital for long. He always went back to the front. In early 1944, at Anzio, Italy, he walked into hell. The beachhead turned into a place where people were killed. Many thousands died. People in Audie said it made them feel like they were running away from the law of averages. You were sure that your number would soon come. On March 2, he crawled through enemy fire to get close to a German tank and used rifle grenades to destroy it by himself. He got a Bronze Star for that. But more than awards, it showed something more important. He was no longer scared. But the death of his best friend, Letty Tipton, still hurt him a lot. The battle took place in France, close to a farm. A white flag was waved by two Germans, acting like they're giving up. Tipton took a step forward. They killed him right away with a gun. There was a break in Audie. He went straight at the German line, took the machine gun, killed 6, hurt 2, and caught the rest. He kept shooting until no one moved. After that, he wrote, "I do not stop firing while there is still a quiver of life in them." Not just getting back at them. It was a mix of sadness, anger, and the need to stay alive. Artie changed as the war went on. Other people got weaker, but he got stronger. He was no longer scared of bullets. Police said he was the best at figuring out how dangerous something was. Soldiers around him both looked up to and feared him. He didn't talk or get mail very often. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He changed into something else, a cooler thing. He turned down the army's offer to become an officer because he didn't want to leave his friends. He turned down a race because he didn't want to make his tired unit do drills. Malaria came back once more. He was taken to the hospital more than once, in March 1944 in Naples and once in Sicily. He kept going back to the fight, though. He and 60 other guys from Company B got the Combat Infantryman badge on May 8, 1944. For those who had been through the worst, it was an honor, but Audie couldn't change what the war had done to her. On January 26, 1945, near the town of Holtzwihr in France, a 19-year-old soldier named Audie Murphy was the only thing that stood between them and death. Company B, his unit, was almost completely destroyed. Only one day before, 102 of the 120 guys had died. There were only 18 people left. Now they were up against 6 German tanks and 250 enemy troops. The ground was cold. They were not even able to dig. There was no place to hide, no one to help, and no real hope. Still, Murphy wouldn't back down. Then the moment that should have had everything end, right next to Murphy's spot, a German shell hit the M10 tank destroyer. It caught fire and blew up. The group gave up on it. The fire was getting hotter quickly. A normal person would have run away, but Murphy climbed on top of it. When he felt fire on the ground, he grabbed the 50 caliber machine gun on the tank and began firing. He kept going. There were 3 ways the Germans could fire. It was filled with bullets, but Murphy did not move. Pieces of metal hit his leg. He kept shooting. His one hand was on a field radio, which he used to call in artillery hits. The other hand was on the machine gun. He fought by himself for an hour and a half, telling bombs to kill enemy troops and waiting for them to get as close as 10 yards before firing. Private Anthony Abramsky, one of his men, looked on in shock. He said, "I thought the damn tank destroyer was going to blow up under him at any second." It never did, though. Murphy had killed or hurt about 50 German soldiers by the time the smoke cleared. A whole enemy attack was turned back by him, almost all by himself. Once their combat backup was gone, the tanks had to go back. His own men were shocked. They thought they had just seen him pass away, but they saw something else. Something that didn't look like a person. Murphy was hurt, worn out, and covered in blood. But when his men moved forward to finish the battle, he joined them from the front, not the back. Abramsky later said, "That was the bravest and most gutsy thing I have ever seen. That's something that no one else in American history had ever done by the time he was 21. It had given him 33 medals from the US troops, not over their whole lives, just during WRR. He had every Battle Valor Award that was out there at the time. There were 3 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, 2 Bronze Stars, and the Medal of Honor. The Legion of Merit was one of his awards. That doesn't include the war ribbons with many battle stars or the medals from France and Belgium. He was known as a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor in France. 2 Croix de Guerre medals were given to him. He didn't show off the Croix de Guerre 1940 palm that Belgium gave him. He gave away a lot. Now the new ones are in a museum in Dallas. Then there's 241, the number that stuck with him forever. That's the number of enemy forces the US Army said Murphy killed. Some guesses are even bigger. That number could be as high as 250 if you count the people killed by fire. He didn't want to talk about it though. He just said, "I don't know how they know." When a reporter asked how they got the number, "I forgot to keep track. I would rather not know." Someone else asked him what it was like to kill so many people. He said, "I didn't feel either way." Being able to feel wasn't a luxury in the army. He never talked about it. It probably made him feel bad. He once said, "War is the only thing I've ever found I was good at." That's a bad thing. When his picture was on the cover of Life magazine on July 16, everything changed. 1945, that picture of a young, freckled Texan, 21 years old, made him famous right away. On July 1945, James Cagney saw Audie Murphy on the cover of Life magazine. He saw more than a war hero, he saw possible. The picture called Murphy, the soldier with the most decorations, and it touched Cagney. He got Murphy to come to Hollywood, signed him up with his production company, and told him that he would have a new life in movies. But things went wrong very quickly. The Cagney brothers never gave Murphy a single role, even though they had a contract with him. Their deal ended in 1947 because they had a fight. Murphy lived at Terry Hunt's gym while he was stuck in Hollywood. In his mind, he didn't belong. He once said that working in films didn't feel real or real like being on the battlefield. Things finally began to move in 1948. He got a small part in Texas Brickland and Heaven for only $500, 0 cents, which is about $7,000, 0 cents. That part wasn't very exciting, but it was the start. Murphy went on to be in more than 40 films and one TV show over the next 20 years. Behind the scenes, though, he was quietly sad. He didn't think he had what it took. He told a reporter from San Antonio that he had one hang-up as an actor right before he died. "It wasn't my skill." He told the truth when he said it. They heard what I told them. They knew I had 20 times made the same movie. It was simple, but not good. His words were sharp like a knife and cut through the Hollywood glitz. Murphy wasn't after fame. He was still alive, then went to hell and back. The movie that would always be associated with him. It came out in 1955 and was based on his autobiography. He didn't want to play himself, though. He believed people would believe he was taking advantage of his war record. He even said Tony Curtis should play the lead, but nobody else could do it right. He almost broke during the process. Director Jesse Hibbs saw a big difference. In Westerns, Murphy did what he was told. But in this movie, he became obsessed with every little thing. He showed the artists how to color holes, so they looked like they had just been hit by a meteor. His outfit was checked for every soldier. He showed the special effects team exactly what bombs should look like because he had seen them happen in real life. He still didn't like how Hollywood fixed everything. It was pouring rain when he thought about the Battle of Anzio. It looked like sunshine on the screen. In the movie, the Colmar pocket looked too clean and easy, but in real life, it had been fought in snow and mud. This difference wore him down. People really liked it. To Hell and Back was Universal Studios' most successful movie. It was #1 for 20 years. Until Jaws came out in 1975. There was no romance or a fancy love story. It was only one man's war, but it made a lot of money. But while the movie did really well at the box office, Murphy broke down. He started having the same kind of dreams that he thought he had left behind in Europe. Max Hastings, a historian, later said that Murphy was a huge mess mentally. He didn't feel better after reliving those fights for moviegoers. It made his scars worse. He became famous because of the movie, but it also stuck him in a false version of his life. His version wasn't like the one in Hollywood. That's not the end of his story. Murph was writing music in the background. Between 1962 and 1970, he wrote 18 country songs with Scott Turner. It was written at Murphy's Ranch in 1962 and became their biggest hit. It was a story about sadness and being left behind. The song made me feel something. It had almost 60 singers in different languages recorded. There are also big stars, Jimmy Dean, Porter Wagoner and Dean Martin. There was Quiet and then another song came. When Murphy was living in California and the wind was roaring outside his window, he said, "When the wind blows in Chicago," which became the title of a song by Dean Martin and Eddie Arnold. Like most people, he was good at rhyme and flow. A song he wrote during the war was included in his autobiography, but he gave credit to a made-up soldier called Kerrigan. He was a war hero, a movie star, and a sign of bravery in the United States. Life was sad for him behind the cameras and awards though. A lot of drug abuse and mental chaos that most people never saw. He married the rising star actress Wanda Hendricks in 1949. She was 21 years old, full of hope and crazy about Murphy's picture on a magazine cover. But the hero she married was more than that, a broken heart. Murph wasn't safe at home. He kept having angry memories. He was unable to rest. As he thought about war, he would sometimes hold Wanda at gunpoint. The press made them look like a picture-perfect pair. She was called his little Hendrix honey by the news, but the truth was very scary. He told her to move to Texas from Hollywood, but his wild moods and fear made it hard for him to have even a normal day. She once said, "He was gone when I turned to kiss him." The person who stood in his place was not him. She ran for her life. Only 7 months after they got married, it was mental abuse that made her ask for a divorce in April 1950. After a year, it was finally done. Later that same year, Murphy got married again. This time, he married Pamela Archer, who used to be an army nurse and is now an aeroplane waitress. It looked like she might understand him. They had 2 boys. He was named Terry in 1952 and Skipper in 1954. Things looked better for a while, but a different kind of storm was coming. Pamela became deeply interested in religion. She made them follow strict moral rules and made their home a tense and harsh place to be. She gave Murphy a harsh choice after their second son was born. Stay married, but live your own life. Legally tied, but mentally cut off. He still had to be a dad and pay the bills, but he felt like a stranger in his own home. He did his best to keep his sons safe. He did not want them to be hurt by Pamela's strong views, but the war had hurt him too much. He had trouble sleeping, bad dreams, and mood swings that were hard to predict. Every night he slept with a gun under his pillow. He was always scared. He wanted to be a good dad, but he couldn't connect with his kids because he was emotionally numb. He talked about them in public and called them his joy. "If I didn't have Pam and the boys, I think I'd still be happy living alone," he said one time. However, those warm times never lasted. It hurt him over and over again. Murphy had had enough by the late 1960s. He was going to get a divorce from Pamela, but he changed his mind for the sake of his boys, not her. He was afraid of what would happen if he left them. He stayed, but not in the house. He stayed in the garret. It became a home for him, and he lived there in secret. People outside the family thought they were whole, but Murphy was sent away from that house. In 1971, he said, "People didn't know I was living in the garret." He tried to be there for his kids, but all they saw was a ghost. He was talking to divorce lawyers right before he died. Time ran out though. Murphy's problems inside didn't just make his home life bad, they also destroyed his money. He lost everything because he was hooked on gaming. He lost about $3 million, 0 cents, which is more than $20 million, 0 cents now. It wasn't a joke. A lot of money would bet on him at once. He was looking for that rush, maybe trying to get the energy of battle again. He wouldn't push cigarettes or booze, because he didn't want to mislead his young fans. Behind closed doors though, he was losing everything to a drug that he couldn't stop. His PTSD wasn't just in his head, it made him depend on sleeping pills in a dangerous way. It was a drug called that helped him sleep and stop having dreams. Just 2 years after the war finished, he began taking pills. In the middle of the 1960s, he locked himself in a hotel room by himself for a week to break the habit. Because he wanted to be free of it, he went through it all, shaking, sweating, and maybe even seeing things. It almost killed him. But he really wanted to take charge of his life that badly. The fear never went away though. He slept with a loaded .45 caliber gun under his pillow every night. Western movie star Gary Cooper gave it to her as a gift. He didn't see it as a gift though. It was a shield. It was pointed at his first wife when she woke up one morning. He kept up the habit even when he was in a hotel room. It never felt safe anywhere. He thought the war was still going on. When 1968 came around, Audie Murphy's movie career was over. A few years ago, he was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. He used to get $100,000, 0 cents, for each movie. The deal he got now was as low as $20,000, 0 cents though. When producers saw how desperate he was, they got less money for him. They didn't care that he was the most honored war hero in American history. They only saw a faint star. Murphy didn't want to take the easy money. Big deals from drinks and cigarette companies came his way, but he turned them down. He said, "I could not do that to the kids." His values were more important to him than money. In 1961, his TV show, Whispering Smith, already didn't do well. In the late 1960s, the phone stopped going off. His film company had an office in the basement of a hotel. He died in 1980, but his last movie, A Time for Dying, didn't come out in the US until 1982. 11 years after he died, Murphy said it was like being an old prostitute. He was seeing his bride die. Things got worse. Murphy started to look for risky business deals just to stay alive. He put almost all of his $260,000, 0 cent savings into an oil business in Algeria in 1967. After the Six-Day War, the whole investment was lost in an instant. He was hurt. He was looking for any chance that could help him get out of debt. By 1971, he even let Bob Hope buy his favorite land. The money ran out though. He spent his days calling and calling, pleading for deals that could save him. He lived in the garage, away from his wife, so he could be close to his boys. The man who used to fight the Nazis was now up against debt collectors, bills, and financial ruin. And if that wasn't bad enough, the government also came after him. The IRS began looking into back taxes that were not paid. Murphy had to say he owed a lot of money when he filed for bankruptcy in 1968. It made me feel bad. His country, which had given him 28 awards, was now after him for money. He said it was worse than dying in war. This was the last blow after the oil loss, the lost movie career, and the failed investments. There was no break. After the fact, a friend said that Murphy had lost around $3 million, 0 cents, in gaming losses over the years. It all added up. He was in a lot of pain, sinking and running out of time. He kept going anyway. His business trip to Virginia began on May 28, 1971, when he got on a twin-engine Aero Commander 680 Super. He was on the road with 5 business partners trying to close a new deal. The plane took off from Atlanta's the Cape Peachtree Airport. We thought it would take less than 2 hours. It went ahead even though the sky didn't look good. There was no flight plan. No one was ready for trouble. But trouble came quickly. The pilot it looked like Herman Lavelle Butler was a good person. 8,000 hours of flight. There was a catch though. He was on that kind of plane for only 6 hours. Even worse, he wasn't rated for instruments. It was against the law for him to fly through clouds, rain or fog. He had no idea how, and they did indeed fly into the dead. The weather became dangerous, heavy fog. The mountains are surrounded by clouds. Being seen is only 3 miles. It was impossible to see the Blue Ridge Mountains. Butler tried to fly by sight in situations that needed him to learn all of his instruments. It wasn't in him. He kept going anyway. He even tried to land on a highway near Galax, Virginia at one point. A circle of the plane, barely 150 feet above the ground and avoiding trees, was seen. After that, it went west and straight into the mountains. The plane crashed into Brush Mountain, 2,700 feet above, at 12:08 p.m. The crash was very bad. Everyone on board died right away. Murphy's body was thrown away from the scene of the accident. The crash scene was on fire. It was found after 3 days. Search planes were late because of bad weather, and no one knew where to look because no flight plan had been made. There were 31 planes used in the search. The pieces of the plane were found 4 miles up in the mountains. After a year, the National Transportation Safety Board released its report. The reason was that Butler kept flying by sight, even though the weather called for instrument guiding. He wasn't good at flying that plane and hadn't done it before. Butler had already crashed an airplane the year before, which didn't help. Both engines stopped working in March 1970 because he ran out of fuel. That time too, he tried to land on a highway but failed. Someone should have raised a big red flag, but they didn't. He flew again. There were a lot of plot ideas after the crash. A few people said it was mischief. Some people thought the government killed Murphy to keep him quiet. He spoke out for soldiers' rights and against the way he was treated. But none of the ideas were true. There was proof of driver mistake, a bad choice that could have stopped a tragedy. His family didn't stay still. Pamela, his wife, sued 13 people for $10 million, 0 cents, including Colado Aviation, the pilot's estate, and other people. After 4 long years, the family was given $2,500,000, 0 cents in damages by a jury. Today, that amount would be about $14,600,000, 0 cents. The court said Colorado Aviation was scared. They let a pilot who wasn't prepared fly a complicated plane in dangerous situations. All the conspiracy ideas were shot down by the case. There would have been proof of wrongdoing during the hearing. There wasn't, and though failure is all and loss. He was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery on June 7, 1971. Neither special care nor a golden headstone were what he asked for. It's just a plain white pen that every soldier gets, and that's exactly what he got. Every year, a lot of people go to his grave. So many people came to the cemetery that they had to make a way around the tree that shades his grave. The Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 silver stars and 3 purple hearts are among the medals that are written on his base stone. The graveyard offered to add gold leaf to show how important he was, but his family turned them down. That is not what he would have wanted.